Well, back in April earlier this year, I was sent some bows from the Wyman Museum in Elk Springs, Colorado, and Lou Wyman asked if I could possibly duplicate these bows. They were all broken on one side, and they all were kind of a different shape and pattern. One thing different about a car bow than a horse-drawn buggy or carriage top bow is these are fairly heavy. So I'm going to try to kind of piece these back together, get the dimensions, get the feel for what they are, and see if we can't get some duplicates made for this car. Now, two of these bows seem to only be 1 inch thick, but the oddity about these is that they are at an angle. So I'm going to have to bend them a full 1.5 inches thick, and then I'm going to have to carve the angle into the top of these two bows. The third bow seems to be 1.5 inches square clear through the whole top, but these two other ones, wherever they go, I'm not sure, are a little unique. Now, in restoration work, whether it's these old cars or old horse-drawn vehicles, it's not only the challenge of figuring out how to do the work, it's also figuring out what work needs to be done. And what I mean is kind of the power of observation. You have to kind of scrutinize the different styles, shapes, twists, angles, and we'll see here that not all of these three bows are the same. One bow is a little different in the curve. And not only do you have to deal with breakage and rot, but you also have to deal with the effects of time, where wood has twisted and changed shapes. Now, these two bows are the ones that I was talking about that are only 1 inch thick and seem to be bent at an angle, but actually I think they are 1.5 inches square, and then they are shaped at an angle. And that's what I'm going to do. Each of these bows being broken on one side, for me, is actually an advantage, because I'm assuming that an impact was taken by this car and all three bows broken on one side. So I'm assuming this is going to help me know what's the right and what's the left. But I think I'm going to be a step ahead if I can glue these pieces back together, just so I get a little better feel for their shape and their size. Now, this top bow is the one that has a little different arc in the corner, and it's also the bow that remains square clear across the top, unlike the two bows that are on the bottom. Now, if by chance you've watched some of my other videos on custom steam bending, you realize that it doesn't take anything fancy to make a form. It just has to be structurally sound. I have a number of old 2x6s around that I use for making forms, and that's what I'm going to use to make the forms for these bows. Now when I'm making a form, I have to remember that when I bend, wood is going to spring back. So I'm going to use this bow to kind of give me the finished curve and arcs that I need. But I'm also going to undersize these forms just a bit that will allow for the spring back after they're bent. Now the whole issue of bending wood is to get the inside arc to compress. In order to do that, you have to keep lumber at a constant length. Lumber will not stretch. That's why I put heavy angle iron ends when I'm bending anything over 3/4 of an inch thick on any type of a tight radius. Now, as I steam lumber and it takes on moisture, it will grow in thickness, but it doesn't ever seem to grow in length. And I have both of my lumber and the strap at exactly 12 feet. So it takes a little bit to get the lumber into the strap. And I know it looks like I'm rushing around just hurry, hurry, hurry. But actually I've got this speeded up at 2 times the speed so I can fit as much into this little video as I can. You remember the saying that a chain is only as strong as the weakest link? Well, the same goes for wood. We find out pretty soon where the weak link is in this board. So even though this board is a failure, I'm going to learn some things from it. My spring back is about right. So I'm going to take it out and put it up against one of the old bows and see how close I am and what adjustments I need to make for the next one. Now because I didn't put a clamp right on the very end, my wood jumped out of my form and allowed the wood to stretch, which wood doesn't do. I know you can't see it, but I have a notch that I've ground into my band that tells me where the center is. You can also see I'm bending past vertical, knowing that the legs will spring back. So when I put this second bow right on top of the first bow, you can see that the corner that didn't bend on the first bow also didn't bend well on the second bow. And I thought maybe it was just my sandwich boards, I didn't have them close enough to the corner. But when I put a longer sandwich board on and forced the bend to be closer to that corner, I noticed that the second bow didn't bend well either. So that being that I put a clamp close to the end, I knew my straps were doing what they needed to do. So that made me start to think that I think it was the board and not the steaming process or my bending apparatus. So I'm going to use a different board, try a different tree. I think perhaps maybe in the kiln drying process of this particular board, something work hardened. I know it's kind of a hard concept, but it does happen sometimes in that process. The kiln kind of collapses the grain and makes the wood harder. That's why it's so much more difficult to steam bend kiln dried lumber. But I'm running this wood in at 2 hours per inch thick. I use 3 to 5 pounds of pressure. 3 is, in my book, is kind of ideal. But all those variables I think are in line. I think right now the variable is the lumber. So I'm going to change a different board and see what happens. So once again, the second bow, even though it's going to be a reject, I can still learn something from it. If my form is about right for the curves, and whether my overbend is enough or too much. In this case, I've got a little too much, but I'd rather be too much than not enough, because I know from past experience I can relax that bend just a little bit. So this is the same section. It didn't bend well on the first bow either. Got a little too much compression. I think the next bow will be better. Now when I bent this third bow out of a different piece of lumber, you can see that the bends went much better. On one corner I had one fold, and this is kind of typical when you bend because all bending has to be compression. So the inside corner, the inside radius, these grain fibers have to fold upon themselves, but the goal is to get them to do it over the whole course of the corner. This one corner, this fold all happened, or this compression fold happened all in one place. Now this bow would be a usable bow even though all the compression happened at one spot. But ideally I would like that to spread out. So I'm going to bend again and see what happens. Now this bow ended up bending just right. It has the compression marks in it, spread throughout the whole course of the bend. This, in my mind, is an ideal bend. No outside stretches, good solid bow. We got some more to do next week, and I'll finish this out. Thanks for watching.